Good evening, everybody, and welcome here to the continuation of the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. We continue on the 56th season of this series. It's race number 9. Two more races until we determine the playoff grid for this season's battle for the championship. Seth Cole alongside of Michael Norman. Michael, the trend continues. Last week, we are now 8 for 8 with different drivers. Tim Nofsker, the latest of those. It's getting rather congested right now for drivers that have won their way in. We know there's going to be some drivers that might point their way in without a victory if they're up inside the top 10. I mean, right now, as things stand, we're looking at maybe even upwards of 15 drivers that could be locked into the playoffs. That's a lot of competitors for that championship.
Yes, it is. A lot of competitors, more competition on the racetrack. Makes it exciting to even think about, honestly. With the different amount of winners we had this season, I'm not sure if this series has had eight consecutive different winners on the season before. So I'll have to get with that and look at my history on that one. But today's race should be a pretty fun one, especially with the random qualifying, which puts Kelly Causey and Donnie Garrett on the front row.
Yeah, we actually had something happen today for the first time after the random qualifying took place. We've got ourselves a repeat pole sitter, something that I wasn't exactly expecting to happen as well. Only 2 weeks ago, Kelly Causey got the pole position in race 7, and now he's on the pole here today as well. So he's the only driver that the random lords have looked on and smiled and said, hey, let's put him back on point once again.
It's also the first time since I started commentating with you, Seth, that Flatcaster actually outqualified me.
That is true. Flatcaster's getting better. He's getting better week after week, finding just a little bit more speed. Not sure where he's getting it from, but might have to put that truck back in R&D and figure out just exactly what's going on in that regard. How about we give you the starting lineup for tonight's race, as it looks like 34 drivers. No, correction, make that 32 drivers are going to be scheduled to take the green flag here tonight. We gave you the front row with Causey and Garrett, Joe DeSpirito and Ken Roberts. They're going to make up row number 2. Tom Dixon is going to be in row 3 with Josh Metallic. Bernie Mobbs and Jason Scheck, they're in row 4. Then John Godfrey and Bob Seminara, your current points leader, they complete the top 10. Bobby Farrow and Doug Hewlick, they're back in row 6. Mark Paglia and Terry Bombard in row 7. Row 8 with Chuck McClure and Curlin Hurst. Brian Lavelle and Rodney Sullins, they're back in row 9. The top 20 is completed by Richard Martin and Chris Elliott. Row 11 will find Dave Melson and Bob Dixon. Row 12 with Dave Cannon and Doug Maluski. Cy Jones and Billy Ellis, they're back in row 13. Row 14 with Milt Surratt and Glenn Harris. Tim Nofsker, he's back in row 15. Last week's winner shares that row with Brian Schilling. And then in the final row here tonight is going to be Wiley Coate and former winner of the season, Grant Wesley. That's the 32 drivers that will take the green flag here tonight. In regards to the point standings right now, you've got a lot of your former winners up inside of the top 10. Bob Seminara, Joe DeSpirito, Chuck McClure, Rodney Sullins, Tim Nofsker, and Donnie Garrett. Some of the guys to keep an eye on here tonight that right now are in points position but would like to win their way in inside the top 10. Brian Schilling, he's been very consistent the last couple of weeks. And also Glenn Harris and Chris Elliott, who jumped up into the top 10 last week. And of course, we'll highlight some other drivers from 11th through 20th in points that could win their way in as well. But Michael, they're coming through the tri-oval. Flagman's ready to get us underway for race number 9.
Green flag is out. Too wide, already pinching, trying to get that non-existent side draft to get the better edge. And we know that right off the start, the inside lane is going to be the line to beat. But once it gets formed up, the outside lane is where you're going to want to be.
That's why you see Kelly Causey. He stayed on the inside all the way through 1 and 2, but as soon as they got to the exit of the corner onto the straightaway, he moves up to the middle line to pick up Donnie Garrett and Ken Roberts. Pushing hard there on the bottom line, Bernie Mobbs, Joe DeSpirito trying to keep the momentum going forward. Kelly Causey going to try and channel his inner Dale Jr., try and make sure that neither line gets a run on him. Looks like he's going to lead the first lap of the evening. Garrett in second, Roberts third, and Metallic might be clear for fourth by the time they get into turn 1.
Very clear right now.
Josh Metallic, another driver that is inside the top 10 the point standings looking for a victory, but right now in a playoff spot. Should he stay inside of the top 10, the defending champion of the series, and he's going to make a move up there to the top side. No one's going to go with him, though. He's about creating a third lane. No fish are biting this early on.
Well, no, it's way too early for that. And back he goes.
No friends
Almost,
on that top
almost
side.
as if he put the brakes on. Oh, wreck. The 88 Grant Wesley spun down to the inside, just tapped the nose of his Toyota on the inside wall, and no caution.
No yellow flag for Grant Wesley, former winner this season. Started shotgun on the field here tonight, and as if it wasn't enough of a hole to try and dig himself out of in the early going, now he's going to be hoping for a caution to come out to catch back up to this lead pack. One thing that we kind of have to talk about as well, last week, only one caution flew there the entirety of that 66 lap event. So if we continue that trend on, Grant Wesley's opportunity to get up here to the field, he may have to rely on potentially a wreck coming onto pit road or something, because last week that seemed to be the trouble spot for a lot of these guys. Not necessarily on the racetrack, but slowing down for pit road.
Well, while you were watching the live action here, I went to look back. Tim Nofsker in the 088 car got in turn 4, kind of went up the track a little bit, and that caused a bit of a chain reaction. Brian Schillen had to slow down a little bit, and the 88 was not ready for that. And when it happened, it kind of bumper grabbed off the back of his truck and sent him for a spin down the inside.
Caught the tail end of his spin, saw that contact with the left front into the inside wall. Didn't look like it was all that much of contact, so he should be good to go if he can get caught up. And you were talking about those other drivers that were involved in that stack up. Jason Scheck back here has lost the draft. There is Tom Dixon there in the 45, who has also lost the draft. The Batmobile number 45. Glenn Harris just barely, I think, getting a tow from the 10, I believe, up ahead. No, it's the 26 rather, of Billy Elliser. So we already have a couple of stragglers that might be losing out on the lead pack. Also just noticed the 6 of Wiley Coate. Like he may have just made an unscheduled pit stop. Saw him leaving pit road moments ago. So now he has lost the lead draft.
31 cars have taken the green flag.
Not certain who the driver is that we had slated to roll off that did not take the green. Try and follow up on that in just a moment here, but front pack here, at least all the way back to around, I'd say the 13th, 14th position. They are all single file. Then you've got a second lane that is forming. That is Doug Hewlick in the 23, Josh Metallic in the 39 that are trying to make something happen. They've got, is that Dave Cannon, I believe, up there with them? Yes, indeed it is. Also the 80, or no, correction, it's not the, yeah, that is the 088 of last week's winner, Tim Nofsker. They're not moving anywhere, though. They're kind of stationary. Hewlick and Richard Martin, they've been side by side pretty much the entirety of this lap. Now they're making a little bit of progress, but not much.
Little is better than none.
Indeed it is, as they continue to try and push there on that top side.
Lap 6 of 66.
Yes, yes, indeed. We mentioned coming into this race last week that we were going to be observing the finals of the RTG Tally Challenge Bracket Series. Bob Seminara taking on Brian Schilling. But what we failed to talk about is drivers that end up getting eliminated in the early going of the bracket end up going into what's called a loser's bracket. It's kind of like a second chance for those drivers to be able to still be in the hunt for the bracket championship. And this week in that losers round 4, we've got some pretty good matchups. Richard Martin taking on Rodney Sullins, Terry Bombard against tonight's pole sitter Kelly Causey. Jeremy Jeffries, I believe, is not in the field here tonight, so he will lose out to Chris Elliott. And also, I do not believe we have Wayne Pribnow in the field, so that means that Chuck McClure will be moving on. That will be the quarterfinals for the losers bracket. Then they will have an elimination round next week in which the 2 respective winners will go on to face Grant Wesley and Joe DeSpirito, who were the last two to get eliminated last week during the quarterfinals for the overall bracket, the winner's bracket. So a lot to keep track of here, but pretty much here tonight, if Brian Schilling or Bob Seminara are able to finish higher than the other, they get a week off before they find out who they're going to be taking on. Actually, I think they get 2 weeks off before they find out who they're taking on.
I thought I heard him say 4.
Oh, is it 4 weeks?
Something like that.
Oh, maybe it is.
Look at that outside line, Seth.
Actually, I think you're right. I think it's 3 or 4 weeks. And then the winner of the winner's bracket will take on the winner of the loser's bracket. And so they'll get a little bit of an off week as Mark Paglia is going to be that truck on the outside line. Now he gets ditched by Chuck McClure. McClure goes from all the way to the top to all the way to the bottom with Joe DeSpirito. DeSpirito has picked up Bob Seminara in the 712, who forced his way to the inside of Ken Roberts. We're 3 wide. Bobby Farrell, high, wide, and handsome. Now he tucks in behind the 55. Starting to get a little racy here, Michael, and we saw this in the early portion of last week as well. 3 wide, what was it, 5, 6, 7 rows deep. They all managed to keep it together for a long time, too. We might be setting up for a little bit of deja vu 1 week later.
Yeah, looking very close. Look at the outside lane. It's really trying to get organized. These guys do not give up. They will make it up there.
We've seen in the past as well, you don't necessarily have to have numbers up on that top side to make it work, but you do have to have the bumpers locked. You have, oh, and they might have locked a little too much right there. Dave Cannon and Tim Knopfsker. I don't know if Cannon bumper grabbed off Metallic or if Knopfsker bumper grabbed off of Cannon, but both the 003 and the 088, you saw them make evasive maneuvers to get dislodged and not cause the first caution of the day.
Hey, it happens. You know, that's part of NR 2003, and you know, it's just part of how these guys push and draft and stuff.
Kelly Causey continues to show the way. Looks like Donnie Garrett pretty committed to the back bumper of that 00, but watch the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place trucks. They might step out of line here in a few moments. Saw them get formed up. Seminara, DeSpirito, and McClure. If the 712 makes a move to the top side, I think he's going to have 2, maybe 3, if you count Bernie Mobbs there in that 31 that might go up there with him. Of course, Bernie Mobbs, part of the Florida gang, along with Donnie Garrett, Seminara, and Joe DeSpirito. And all of a sudden, middle line is gone. Middle line has completely evaporated.
All but maybe 3 cars in there, all of them Fords. I believe they are approaching Grant Wesley. It's either great. Yes, it's Grant Wesley and Wiley Coate.
Right now, they're just trying to stay on the lead lap. Wiley Coate had that pit stop, and he was able to reel in Grant Wesley, who had that spin. Pretty easy right now if you've got 2 cars lined up. You saw there very little space of the front bumper of Wiley Coate, the back bumper of Grant Wesley. Very easy to be able to push and not run the risk of bumper grab, because a big reason why we see bumper grab, as you alluded to, Michael, first off, you know, it's a sim, and so different connections and different hitboxes play into that, but also you consider the fact that these guys are all lined up single file. A lot of checkup takes place when you go into the corners, and that also can lead to bumper grab, maybe just a quarter inch too far ahead than where you want to be, and just a wrong lining up of the bumpers.
Yep, it's basically what we're seeing is it's inevitable.
It is. It's super speedway racing.
Mm-hmm. Now, Seth, I keep forgetting. Didn't you say that it's usually between like 19 to 21 laps on field for these trucks, right?
Yep. Actually, we've very rarely this season. I'm not certain what exactly it is, but at least to my current knowledge, I don't think anybody has really stretched it to that lap 21. It's really been 19 to 20 this season that we've seen drivers stretch it to. Nobody's really made a gutsy call to try and go that extra lap on fuel.
Well, probably because half of everybody comes down pit road, and you don't want to come down pit road all by yourself.
Yeah, it's a good call. Now, Grant Wesley, Wiley Coate, while it looks like they are going to go a lap down here, all hope is not lost. If they remain the only trucks 1 lap down and we get a caution, there are 2 lucky dogs here in the Tally Challenge Series, so they would be in line for free passes. As look at this, Causey moves low, and Seminara says, I'm going to stay in the middle. Look at him going to shoot right up the center. Espirito and Mob stayed with him.
All it takes is one mistake.
I think Causey thought everybody was going to go down to the yellow line, and Seminara says,
Yeah, they're far enough out of the way.
Bob Seminara going to be the second different race leader. 13 laps, the first 13 laps led by pole sitter Kelly Causey. Seminara now going to take over, and we saw Bob Seminara early portion of the season, so consistent, up there at the top of the point standings. You just got a feeling that we were going to see him in victory lane sooner or later, and he got that first checkered flag 2 weeks ago. Joe DeSpirito took a checkered flag back in race 4, so now, at this point in time, you've got the 712 and the 24 duking it out at the front, trying to figure out who's going to be the first repeat winner on the season, if we have a repeat winner on the season.
Yeah, that's a very big if. Wait, Seth, our favorite character is if. If is good.
If is good. But I don't know. I think these guys might hit the panic button at some point in this race. So there you go.
Yeah, and a little bit of wrecking might cause a bit of pain.
A little bit of pain.
What is happening to us?
I don't know. I think we need the Colin Mockery. Wow, nice segue.
I
that outside line.
I could see Matt right now. His face is just screaming internally.
And that's on a normal day. How about that outside line? We saw Doug Hewlick. He was leading that third line a few laps ago. Now he's leading the second line as that middle line completely gone. It's now turned into side-by-side for 6th position, but Hewlick's not giving up on that top side. He's now picked up Richard Martin. Tim Knopfsker is still up there. Dave Melson. And Brian Schilling there in the 4 as well. Don't forget, Brian Schilling was involved in the stack-up earlier on, back on lap 1 when Grant Wesley had his issues. So a nice recovery there for the 4.
Oh, one car in the back when he made a dive from the top to the bottom there. But it all seems well, and we're approaching that green flag pit stop time, Seth. We're on lap 17. Depending on if you think that we would go green all the way, do we see anybody pit within the next lap or two?
Not sure if you would pit within a lap or two.
I think the 143 is coming to pit road.
Well, there you go then. That answers the question.
Oh, 7-Eleven on the apron. Oh, there we go. The 43. Can he save it? He's spinning to the inside.
He stays below the yellow line. We still stay green, and it looks like that is the case.
360.
No caution going to come out. We had both the Dixons on pit road. Bob Dixon, the 143, the 45 of Tom Dixon.
Jason Scheck and Donnie Garrett are all back here by themselves. I wonder if they pit early, too.
Yeah, Donnie Garrett, I'll double check on that one. Yes, Donnie Garrett was on pit road a lap ago. Jason Scheck lost the draft. That's why he's back there. And now we'll see if we have more drivers come to pit lane. I'm seeing radios lighting up. Yep, here we go. Race leaders are in. Seminara, DeSpirito, McClure, Mobbs. Oh, it's very congested. Schilling tried to force his way in between the inside wall and John Godfrey, and Godfrey is into the grass. I saw somebody else off the course just a bit there too, into the infield grass. They kept it going.
From somebody who used to drive these cars in league races and still kind of does, that kind of move would upset me. Like, I know you try to get positions when you try to come down pit road, but that is just uncalled for.
Yeah, I'm not certain John Godfrey going to be all that thrilled about that either. I mean, usually you try to be single file if you can, double file at most, but that was almost 4 wide trying to get onto pit road there for Brian Schilling in the 4, and now Josh Metallic going to come down pit lane. David Cannon, Kelly Causey, Terry Bombard's in this group. Like they're all going to get on pit road safely. Wiley Coate there in the 6 lap machine. We should document that both Grant Wesley and Wiley Coate, after they were reeled in, they merged with the lead pack, and so they were able to at least stay in the draft, albeit a lap down. Going to have a couple more drivers a lap down, it looks like here, though. Donnie Garrett, I think, is just now back in the tail end of the lead lap with the pit stop cycle, but I think Tom Dixon may have lost a lap here under this green flag pit stop. And now the question is, who does the lead cycle around to? I think it's going to be the 24 of Joe DeSpirito. Getting a big push from the 17 of Chuck McClure, and Bob Seminara reeling them in as well.
Yeah, we'll see. The 39 here, Metallic, is getting up to speed, and here comes the rest of this cars. Yeah, it should be, like you said, DeSpirito, this group of 3 trucks here, DeSpirito, McLaren, Bob Seminara.
Now they're going to get themselves lined up as quickly as they can to try and gap between them and the 4th place truck. That's Nofsker. We got 3 truck tandems going on right now. That's Nofsker has a rear deck lid full of Bernie Mobs. Ken Roberts right behind Mobs, and they've actually picked up Mark Paglia in the 28. So you got 4 trucks against 3 trucks. Nofsker's going to have a big run here. He's going to have to make a move. I don't see why you would drag the brake and just tuck in line when you've got this much momentum heading for turn 1. Well, more the fool me. He dragged the brake. He dragged the brake and stayed in line. Okay.
Well, these trucks are very quick to catch back up with one another. This 3 truck that was once a tandem now is a full pack here. And Seth, you of all people know, because I believe you've raced with these guys before and have done strategies on plate checks like this too. When you stay single file, you have a better shot at catching up than you would be with even with a small truck pack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. The one thing that hurts you though when you're trying to reel in the lead pack is what they're doing right now. When they stay single file, it either cancels out or even opens up the gap between you and them. You gotta hope that you've got a bigger pack than they do. And sometimes even I've seen in super speedway racing that even if you have a bigger pack, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to reel in the lead group, because you end up having so much checkup with lining up single file that a lot of that momentum that you get one lap can be lost the following lap. So a lot of people, when they watch super speedway racing, they think, oh, well, these guys are just out there going fast and turning left. No, there's a lot that goes into super speedway racing, the art of super speedway racing, that you do not see from the spectator point of view. You got to get in the cockpit behind the wheel of one of these machines and experience just exactly all the different facets there are that these drivers have to deal with in the 66 lap event.
Oh, so you're telling me I can't just hop into one of these trucks and just turn left?
Nope.
Darn.
No, try being in the middle of a 3-wide situation in this series. It is one of the most frightening things.
That's very true.
I have seen
Gray?
on my scoring the 10 of Terry Bombard currently being shown with a black flag penalty. And I believe he's just hit pit road this last lap, so I can only assume possibly speeding on pit road and now finally coming down to serve said penalty. That's a tough break there for the 10 truck, who after pit stop cycled around was going to be up somewhere in the 8th, 9th position. So a lot of track position lost right there.
Cars.
Oh, and Terry Bombard was disqualified, I just read. Oh, what a shame. Didn't serve the black flag quickly enough, and Terry Bombard,
Oh, yes,
his
he
card's
is.
going
Number
to be
10.
pulled.
Yep.
Man, that is tough. I'll bet probably what happened was he probably sped on pit road, decided he was going to try and wait as long as possible, maybe catch a caution and not have to serve that penalty. Finally, that final lap there, before they were going to disqualify him, elects to come down pit road, but it was too little too late. That's a gut wrencher there for Terry Bombard, who again, as I was mentioning, was going to be up inside the top 10 when these green flag pit stops cycled around. Speaking of green flag pit stops, they've really split the field up, and it will put a few drivers off the lead lap here. There you see Donnie Garrett, Tom Dixon, and Jason Scheck. They are going a lap down now. They're going to join Grant Wesley and Wiley Coate off the lead lap, so that takes the 88 and the 6 currently out of free pass positions. And look who now has made their way up inside the top 10. Last time by, the 9 scored in 9th, Chris Elliott. We mentioned that last week he picked up a spot in the point standings. He comes in that critical 10th position. If he doesn't win his way in, he would point his way in if he stays above that 10th in the standings cut line.
Yep, and that's what's going to be. It's all about placing yourself at the right place at the right time.
See where some of the others are running that are trying to do the same thing to point their way in. Josh Metallic comes into this race 7th. Last time by, he was scored in 8th. Brian Schilling, who came into this race tied for 2nd with Joe DeSpirito. Last time by, the 4 scored last truck on the lead lap in the 25th position. As a matter of fact, he might be a couple laps away from going a lap down himself, along with Bob Dixon and Glenn Harris. They're in a 3-car pack just ahead of this group. And then Glenn Harris, 8th in the point standings. Right now, he is being scored in that group I just mentioned, 24th place. So if things don't change, it's not going to be that great a points day for about 2 or 3 of the drivers inside the top 10 in points that are still looking for their first win on the season, as we almost had a battle for the lead there, Michael. Chuck McClure, tired of riding around there in line, he jumped to the top side with Tim Nofsker, but a little door bang there from Bob Seminara stalled that momentum out right quick.
Yeah, did, and you got Chris Elliott up there as well. You know, they're trying to get the outside. We've seen the outside lane work with just that little bit of cars. So, you know, it's I wouldn't see. I mean, I could see Bob Seminara jumping up at just the right moment if he gets tired of running behind Joe DeSpirito, but I don't think that's ever happened. I think those two just love to push each other. If my memory serves me correctly, that is. And you know how often that happens.
It appears that we've got 14 trucks on the lead lap up in this lead group. 17 trucks in total. We've got 3 trucks that are off the lead lap. Garrett, Dixon, and Scheck.
Got more than that. There's 5 cars off. 7, 45, 1, 88, and 6.
Oh, I was talking about the lead pack.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
hey, I'm keeping you informed.
You are indeed. As a matter of fact, let's jump up and look at that pack you're talking about there. There's Dixon, Harris, and Schilling. They're just now coming off of turn 4. Leaders are heading into turn 3. Looks like that pack of 3, they're losing about a second a lap to the lead group. And if they continue to be side by side here, with McClure continuing to see if he can get that second lane moving, then that will help that pack of 3 to continue to manage their gap and maybe stay on the lead lap. 28 laps completed. Lap 29 goes on the board. So far in this race, we've only had 4 drivers take a turn out in front. Kelly Causey out in front for 14 laps. Joe DeSpirito right now has led the second most. He just completed his 9th lap led that time by. 4 laps led for Bob Seminara, and then Josh Metallic has taken 1 lap at the front of the field.
We're about to have some battle for the lead here, as we have 2 different lines formed at the same time.
McClure to the top, Roberts to the bottom. Bernie Mobbs, 3rd place, finds himself in the middle. That's the lap machine of Donnie Garrett on the inside, helping Ken Roberts. Nofsker on the top side with McClure, 2 former winners this season. McClure winning the first race on the year, and Nofsker winning the last race so far this year.
Funny how things work out that way, right?
It really is. A lot of times you have things like that happen at super speedways. You can't script it. Interesting call there that the 24 and the 712, they didn't stay to the middle. They jumped down to the bottom in front of Ken Roberts. So Bernie Mobbs and Chris Elliott, a couple of the lone dodges in the field, now they are stuck in the sucker hole and heading to the back of the lead group.
Couple laps shy of halfway.
Talked about the fact that drivers must be inside the top 20 in the point standings with a victory to qualify for the playoffs, or inside the top 10 without a victory to qualify for the playoffs. So coming into this race, we have 2 of our former winners outside of the top 10 in the standings. Richard Martin came into this race 13th in points, and Grant Wesley 17th in points. So if the regular season had come to a close last week, 12 drivers would have made their way into the playoffs. And you know, there's a lot of names, as I mentioned, that are between 11th and 20th in the points that definitely have shown here this season that they could go to victory lane and get themselves a playoff spot with only 2 weeks remaining. Drivers like Bernie Mobbs, who was up here inside the top 5 moments ago before he got sent to the back with that middle line. Cy Jones, John Godfrey. Obviously, Godfrey right now trying to
Rest,
come back from that spin that he had there on pit lane during
rest,
that.
rest in peace, Gilbert Godfrey, Iago.
Greg Palmer, who is not in the field here tonight, so he'll be losing some spots. Milt Surratt also, he's inside the top 20 in the point standings. Perlin Hurst, Ken Roberts is having a really good outing here tonight. Keep an eye on that 55. He was a winner last season, advanced into the postseason, and while he hasn't had a whole lot of luck this year go his way, he's been turning it around here the last couple of weeks, and now up into the top 20 in the points. Now all he's got to worry about is finding victory lane, and solidly there in that third spot.
Yep, for now, I forget, did Joe Spirito win a race so far?
He did.
Okay.
Race 4, if I recall
Oh,
correctly.
So he's looking to become the first two-time winner on the season here, as we are about halfway done with this race now.
More importantly for Joe DeSpirito as well, you know, yes, he obviously is looking for that second victory. He would get bonus points for that win, but oh gosh, that was a bit of a late move down there for DeSpirito as they're trying to throw the block on McClure and Nofsker, who have dove to the inside, but also Joe DeSpirito trying to get that overall points
77
lead.
coming back to pit road.
Donnie Garrett is off sequence from everybody. He came down pit road a lap or two earlier than everyone on the first cycle of pit stops, so no surprise to see him on pit lane early again. But that gives us the indication that pit road's going to get very busy once more, and we've already seen a couple of drivers fall victim to some pit road mistakes.
Yeah, and as much as I don't want to jinx it, we've been caution-free this entire race.
We have indeed. Ooh, look at this.
Though we have been knocking on the door of a caution, but...
Now, if I recall correctly, yeah, Joe DeSpirito, Bob Seminara, they were part of the first big group that came to pit lane. They're trapped on the outside line right now, so if McClure, Nofsker, and Paglia are planning to go in a lap extra, I mean, what do those guys on the outside line do? They're probably going to have to fall to the back, right?
Yeah, you would think. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We are about 2 laps removed from when they would probably have to come to pit lane. Inside line continuing to forge forward. McClure's not clear yet on Joe DeSpirito. He keeps almost clearing off of turn 2, but then that middle line marches right back on the back straightaway.
Maybe they'll all just come down pit road. Maybe he'll just turn left right there and just come down pit road.
Well, he's not clear on the 17, so if McClure's not coming down pit road, then DeSpirito's not going to have a venue, and definitely Bob Seminara's not going to have a venue. There's the 77 of Garrett, who was just on pit road moments ago, falling, I believe that is a second lap down now to the leaders. Not been a good day for him. Fortunately for Donnie Garrett, he's got that win in the bank. That's one thing here too towards the end of the season. If you've got that checkered flag, man, that's a weight off of your shoulders, knowing that you can have a bad performance and still stay inside the top 20 in the point stands and your playoff spot is still clinched.
Well, that 77 should get one of the 2 laps back when the rest of them cycle through pit road.
That's true. That's a good call. Yeah, he's actually latched on to the tail end of this lead pack as well, so yep, he would cycle back around.
No one's really indicating coming down the pit road.
Oh yet.
Boy, the 28 drifted up a little bit off the end of that corner, man. I thought that was going to be big.
Boy, yeah, you're right. He went about almost a full groove off the inside line. Ooh, Nofsker gets a little loose on the bottom there through the tri-oval. Starting to see as that tire heat builds up in the right front. Makes it very difficult for drivers on the inside line to keep it hooked to the bottom. Truck wants to push off of 2 and off of 4.
We might be seeing pit stops this time by.
Yeah, radios might be lighting up a little bit here. We'll see who indeed is indicating they are coming to pit lane, getting ready for our second round of green flag pit stops. Oh yeah, we got a lot of them that are coming to pit road this time, it looks like, Michael.
Oh, this DeSpirito cleared the 17. Now look at Bob Seminara. Bob Seminara said, I have to go to the back.
Did not have a lane to get to pit road. McClure is coming in with Nofsker, Paglia. Contact, and the 28's going to go in the grass with McClure. Seminara's going to loop it around there on pit road entry.
Well, you know one thing for sure. It's not easy getting on the pit road here under green.
No, absolutely not. Look at those skid marks right there on pit lane entry is now Wesley comes in, Bobby Farrell. Drivers trying to master the art of what's called hot pitting. There is a way that you can come to pit lane, and I believe if I recall correctly, the trick is that you have to stay on the brakes until you hit 55 miles per hour. But as long as you stay on the brakes, you can be over pit road speed, and it will not give you a black flag. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of drivers really force the issue in braking late. Oh, we're going to go 4 wide again here on a pit road. Dave Cannon almost hit the wall, and now Chris Elliott up ahead. He pounded the pit lane wall in the 9 truck. I'm trying to keep a tally in my head. We're over half a dozen drivers that have had issues with pit lane here today already.
That's just going to be a longer pit stop for these drivers too with the damage repair.
Yeah, that's true. You've got to wonder if they're going to remember the fact that, they've got that damage. Do they stay on pit road that extra amount of time to try and get it repaired in case there could be some aero damage? Or do they say, no, I'm good. I'll just ride it out with the damage I've sustained?
Yeah, Seth, I've got to ask you this question at the risk of jinxing it again. When was the last time a race like this went caution-free?
Well, I don't think we've had a caution-free race this season. I don't recall exactly when. I know we had, I want to say 1 or 2 caution-free races back when we did the last broadcast of the series back in season 50. But I do not believe we've had one this season, and I was not prepared to go back and look through the record books of when the last time was this series had a caution-free race. But you kind of got the feeling that we might possibly trend in that direction, right? Because we ended up having some huge volatile wrecks for a span of 3 to 4 weeks, and then last week we only had the caution flag waved once. So you knew these drivers, they were realizing they had to kind of clean it up in order to finish first. You have to first finish. So I'll be honest, I'm not surprised that we have been caution-free up to this point in time. But the laps are ticking down, and the aggressiveness is going to kick up. So do I believe this thing will go caution-free from start to finish? Maybe not. It's Talladega after all.
Look who the top 2 are after this cycle of pit stops.
Tim Nofsker has now gone to the race lead, looking for back-to-back victories here this season. Joe DeSpirito, the multi-time champion, right behind him in second. And where the heck did Brian Lavelle come from in that 0:43? He's now slotted into third, right ahead of Chuck McClure.
Passing Brian Schilling right now.
Got Rodney Sullins. He's now cycled up to 5th. Rodney Sullins, of course, a former winner this season, back when Chuck McClure got a post-race penalty. Sullins finished second, moved up the spot to get the victory and clinch himself a spot in the playoffs. Josh Metallic right now runs in 6th, Ken Roberts in 7th. If he can latch on to Brian Schilling, those should be the 7 trucks in this lead pack. Kelly Causey, David Cannon, and Bernie Mobbs last time by were the scoring of the top 10 as we are closing in on 20 laps to go. And low car on the apron on the back straightaway, John Godfrey. Looks like he might be just getting out of the way of the leaders, or is that truck not even under power?
Who are we looking at?
7-11. He is decreasing speed. I think that truck's out of fuel.
I can hear it still running, unless that's just how NR works in this way.
Might be throwing in the clutch or something, but he is going to make it to pit lane. Godfrey might have been trying to stretch it as far as it possibly could go in case he could catch a caution and stay on the lead lap. There's Chris Elliott. Saw him spin on pit lane. Looks like he's cycled around to
Oh no,
the...
Godfrey went behind the wall.
Wow, that's a... And he's going to join Doug Maluski. Maluski, about 5 laps ago, went to the garage area as well, so I missed that.
Outside lane, starting to form again.
McClure, Rodney Sullins, Josh Metallic, Ryan Schilling, Ken Roberts all up there.
Ooh,
whoa, gracious. Man, Brian Lavelle trying to work with that group, but McClure crosses him down to the inside and saw
I don't think Chuck appreciated that.
Well, I saw a little bit of a side-to-side twitch there on Brian Lavelle. I can see it there again. Last thing you want to do is be trying to pinch a driver that is side-by-side warping as they take it 3 wide with Richard Martin.
Lap cars should make this a bigger pack here.
And suddenly we have all the 43 cars in one shot. The 43, the 043, and the 143. Bob Dixon there.
Ooh.
Whoa! Hang on to it, Brian. Mark Paglia is going to go a lap down. We saw him get spun
it's
through
too
the
late
grass.
to make my heart jump like that, okay?
Ooh, it's never too late. It's Talladega. Had another driver go a lap down there as well. That was the 08 of Glenn Harris. So this time by 18 drivers on the lead lap. Next driver they would reel in would be the 9 of Chris Elliott. So doing the numbers right now, Michael, 4 of the top 5 last time by, they've all gone to victory lane. You got to look back there at Josh Metallic and Brian Lavelle if we're going to keep the streak going of 9 races, 9 different winners.
It's possible. Don't count anybody out.
There's Chris Elliott in the 9. He's about to go a lap down here before they even get back to the start-finish line.
And that's a tough break for him. I've never seen a truck race where so many cars on a restrictor plate track goes laps down like that. Oh, I saw smoke on the front stretch.
Yep, so did I. Bobby Farrell potentially in the 92. That truck looked rather slow.
Let's see.
Let's go back and look. Yeah, the Air Force Ford F-Series, a little bit of bumper grab off of Grant Wesley.
That's not good. That's a very tough break.
He clips the grass, comes back up onto the racing surface, and people are probably wondering, well, why doesn't that bring out a yellow flag? Well, there was no oncoming traffic, and so therefore, we still stay under the green flag. There had been drivers in the vicinity coming back, then we definitely would have had a yellow flag come out.
Again, we're on the precipice of a yellow flag. It just doesn't want to come out. It was a 3-syllable word.
It was. That's the biggest word you've done today.
Wow.
Tim Novsker continuing to show the way. That inside line had a run with Rodney Sullins, but now they're starting to lose ground. Spirito clears for second.
Coming back to 20 laps to go this time by.
Yep, 20 laps remaining here at
That's
Talladega.
one more pit stop, and that's going to be within probably 10 laps to go.
And we know, just based off of prior races, these drivers, when the fuel window opens, we're probably not going to see them on pit lane. They're going to wait as long as they possibly can because they're going to want to take on the least amount of fuel. Least amount of fuel means least amount of time spent on pit lane, and more often than not, that can lead to a gain of track position. And we've seen how the field gets split up with these green flag pit stops. Getting yourself positioned in that first, maybe even that second pack, depending on where they are on the track with however many laps remaining, that could be a huge difference maker.
Chuck McClure made a move to the inside, and Tim Novsker said, "Okay, I see you," and came down immediately, leaving the 24 up there.
Tim Novsker trying to block both lanes, trying to control the draft, trying to pick up his second win on the season. So far, Novsker, with that lap led, has led 9 laps. Not as dominant a performance as he had last week when he led 29 of the 66 laps, but he's up front when it matters the most here. And we saw most everybody in this lead group come together that last time on pit road. So if they all come together again here on the final pit stop, I don't know. Obviously, I know that you want to come down with as many numbers as you can because that's going to translate to better speed when you exit. But I would have to think, as a driver, you've got an incentive of, this is a guy I've got to beat. I'm going to force the issue a little bit more here on pit lane entry. And we've seen so many times already here tonight, drivers make mistakes when they try something like that. So I don't know. It's kind of a between a rock and a hard place, I think, for these guys when we're coming up to what we dub the money stop.
Oh yeah, and it's not called that for no specific reason, like you said. I mean, it's gonna be hell trying to get on pit road here because whatever, just like you said, Seth. You know, they're gonna try every inch to try to gain a track position by getting on the pit road like that. But at the same time, I'm not sure if they want to run the risk of hitting that inside wall and taking out other drivers.
We talked about here at the top of the evening the drivers battling in the finals for the winners bracket, waiting to see who was going to move on from the losers bracket. Brian Schilling versus Bob Seminara. Well, both drivers have had issues here tonight. Brian Schilling had a spin on pit lane on the first round of green flag pit stops. Bob Seminara had a spin on the second round of green flag pit stops. Right now, it's advantage to the 712 riding in 13th. Brian Schilling is 4 positions back in 17th, but he is currently 1 lap down. So he would theoretically need for Bob Seminara to have another mistake or catch a caution to get back on the lead lap, to get back in the hunt here for the winner's bracket of the Tally Challenge Series.
Gonna have to keep watching.
Topside, Joe DeSpirito with help from Brian Lavelle will take the race lead over from Tim Nofsker. Ken Roberts right there as well in the 55, and then you've got the lap machine of Bob Dixon. We got a couple of lap machines in this lead group. Dixon in the 143, Brian Schilling in the 4, Glenn Harris in the 08, Bobby Farrell in the 92, and I believe the 43. Yeah, the 43 of Richard Martin is also off the lead lap, so you got about 5 X factors here that could possibly help push one of the lead lap drivers to victory lane if they remain with this lead group once we get to that final round of green flag pit stops.
I completely agree.
Here's where Brian Lavelle comes into this race in points. Not made that many starts on the season. He's 33rd in points, so if he were to win, obviously that'd be huge for him, but I don't see how with this race and only 1 race remaining, how he'd be able to make his way up inside the top 20 in the point stand. So, you know, a lot of times we'll talk with drivers in other series that run on a part-time schedule. They're just out trophy hunting, so they don't have to worry about points. They just have to worry about making the move for the win. I don't know. I kind of like the position that 043 is currently sitting in.
In second place like that, and was that Ken Roberts behind it too? Ken, I mean, that would make a whole nother different winner here if Ken keeps his spot up here or tries to go for the win. I mean, like you said, it's all about positioning your car at the right place at the right time, and they're clear. So anytime at any point that these front runners want to come down pit road, they have a clear racetrack to get to the inside.
You know, I love looking at the grid of where drivers started as opposed to where they're currently running and see who that particular driver is that's been able to slowly, methodically
Well, they all
work
moved
their
down to
way
the
up.
inside.
Yeah, so they may be coming to pit road in the next couple of laps here. We'll wait and see. But the driver here tonight that has picked up the most spots since the start of this race is the guy that is running 5th in line right now. That's 088 of Tim Nofsker. Right now he is scored 4th on the board, but he rolled off the grid, Michael, from the 29th position. So yeah, you get that victory, you get that weight off your shoulders, and then, you know, it kind of gives you the opportunity to kind of sit back and watch what's going on. Pick your moments of when you're going to make moves up to the front. You don't have to be ultra aggressive because you've already got one of those goals for the season checked off.
Absolutely. They're closing in on 10 laps to go.
I'm trying to do the calculations in my head. I believe that, like,
Is
the median...
Is your head smoking?
It is. So, man, the wheels are turning, the wheels are burning. I believe the median average that these drivers have gone on a cycle of fuel has been about 19 laps. So we're looking, well, oh, Ken Roberts!
Oh, that's not,
Oh
and that's
my
a flip.
Gosh!
Still green though, we are still green.
Is he gonna come back up on the racing surface? There's oncoming traffic, no caution thrown.
He stayed low on the apron.
Nofsker just spun out as well. Did he miss his pit stall? I think he might have. No, he's gotten into his pit stall.
Oh, we're gonna keep an eye on this now and see where people are gonna cycle around in.
Well, the fuel window opened and we had some takers on pit road. I thought more than likely we'd see everybody come down when they were on fumes, but apparently we had about a half dozen that tried a little bit of unorthodox strategy, and it did not work out for a few of them. Nofsker with a lengthy stay, And Ken Roberts, I'm amazed that that car came off the ground. Like, what was it, his right sides came off the ground before he even got to that inside pit wall.
Brian Lavelle came down by himself.
The group coming down behind him, Bernie Mobbs, Kelly Causey, Dave Melson, and David Cannon. Might
Not
try
sure if that's
exiting
really
with
gonna.
them. Here comes Grant Wesleyan.
Wasn't sure if that's gonna help Brian Lavelle, but I guess we're really gonna have to wait and see.
Milt Surratt, Billy Elliser, Bob Seminara, Cy Jones in with this group. And now we're waiting on Rodney Sullins. Second car in line, but race leader. Right now, Richard Martin would be on the tail end of the lead lap, as he's ahead of leaders, but he's coming down pit road this time in the STP machine. The other STP car right behind him in Dixon. Knopsker's back in, I believe, Michael. I think the 088 might have been hit with a speeding penalty, and he is now serving it. So last week's winner, just like that, his bid for 2 in a row may be up in smoke.
Absolutely. Trying to keep an eye on who the race leader is. Right now they're saying it's Rodney Sullins, and if that's the case, who's he got right behind him?
The lap machine of Brian Schilling. Oh, another driver has been hit by the speeding police. Joe DeSpirito in the 24. A lot of our front runners late are getting hit with penalties here for speeding on pit road. Here comes Sullins down pit lane. Oh man, he got tires off into the grass, but I believe he made the commitment cone. Question is, though, did he get that thing woed down to pit road speed? Mark Paglia and Bobby Farrell, a couple of other lap machines down with him. Ken Roberts in the 55 back down pit lane. Did he potentially get a penalty?
I think a lot of them might have. That was very hectic coming on the pit road.
24, I saw was scored with a black flag. But now I'm not seeing the black flag on his column anymore, so, and he's still staying out, so maybe there was something untoward where the black flag got cleared. But Chuck McClure should be cycling around here to the race lead as you see him bypass Rodney Sullins. Metallic will be second, DeSpirito third, and along with the lap machine of Tom Dixon, those three are all by their lonesome here, closing in on 8 laps to go. If you're looking for somebody to battle with them, the only one that's got a shot would be Rodney Sullins, and he's going to have to rely on lap machines to get him up there.
Things change in a hurry. If that 24 does end up finishing third, then I'm sure we can ask him about what happened there.
Certainly can. Some more smoke on pit road. Somebody else, I believe, just dove onto pit lane. Jason Scheck might have been that driver, as looks like he's now making the left-hand turn to the garage area. So 4 drivers look like will not reach the conclusion of this race. Jason Scheck, John Godfrey, Doug Maluski, and Terry Bombard. After things cycle around, 15 drivers on the lead lap of 27 running. We have not seen a caution here today. Pit road has played the biggest part into the outcome of this race in many different ways.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm at the edge of my seat right now, just trying to wait and see who's going to win this race. Because right now, has Josh Metallic been the victory lane?
He has not. The defending champ would love to make a statement going into the playoffs with a victory of his own.
Well, he'd be the only one if he could get around the 17 of Chuck McClure.
Keeping an eye on the interval back to Rodney Sullins as well.
4 seconds.
I think he may have lost touch with them.
5 seconds. 5.5 seconds, yeah.
He's only got Mark Paglia for drafting help. I thought he might be within striking distance of a few of the lap machines like Farrell and Richard Martin, but they latched on to the back end of this lead group, so they are pulling away from Rodney Sullins. So it doesn't look like Sullins' opportunity at 2 wins this season, like that's going to come to fruition. So many big names, so many former winners this season having issues here tonight. Got Tim Knopsker, last week's winner, back in 14th. Bob Seminara had a pit road issue. He's back in 10th. Richard Martin, former winner this season, a lap down in 19th. Grant Wesley, his evening started out horribly from lap 1 when he had that spin towards pit road. Been behind the 8 ball the entire evening. He's a lap down in 22nd. Ken Roberts, who was up inside the top 5 pretty much the entirety of the second half of this race, gets hit with a speeding penalty. He's 2 laps down, back in the 26th position. I mean, so many drivers who looked like they were en route, if not for the victory, for top 5s or top 10s. All of a sudden, they're outside the top 15, top 20 in the closing stages, and it's not looking like they're going to have much of an opportunity to improve their positions either, as we get closer and closer to, if we end up seeing that caution come out for the first time tonight, it's not really going to matter because we're nearing that point of no return where the next flag would end the race.
I was just about to tell you that too. I was just about to say, we got 5 laps to go here. If a caution were to come out, I think even now the race would end in the yellow because of the lap trucks.
Well, we've seen Chuck McClure in the past work with drivers like Mark Paglia and Tim Nofsker. We've seen Josh Metallic work with drivers like Ken Roberts and David Cannon. We've seen Joe DeSpirito work with drivers like Bob Seminara and Bernie Mobbs. Well, none of those people I just mentioned are up in this lead pack. So right now, 17 versus 39 versus 24, and they may have to rely on lap machines behind to help them out. All their allies are either a lap down or nowhere close to this lead pack.
And Chuck McClure's really got to be feeling it right now with less than 5 laps to go.
Yeah, Chuck McClure thought 3 weeks into the season that he was already the first multi-time winner on the year, won the season opener, thought he won race 3, but as we mentioned, that post-race penalty took the win from him and gave it to Rodney Sullins. Looking for some redemption here. He was the first winner on the season. He wants to be the first 2-time winner. Joe DeSpirito, multi-time champion. He wants to be the first 2-time winner. And bookending is the defending champion of the series, Josh Metallic, who with the victory in last year's season finale also took that championship trophy, but he's yet to go to victory lane. He's right now locked in on points, but he wants more than that.
Oh yeah, he wants to add on to be the 9th different winner of this season. Question is would Joe DeSpirito go with them if he were to make a move? That's
the big question. And then the question also is, what's the alliances of those lap trucks back there? You've got Tom Dixon, Brian Schilling, Bob Dixon, Bobby Farrell, and Richard Martin. Right now, they're all lined up nose to tail. 5 trucks, 5 trucks nose to tail. If the 24 steps out, does anybody from that group of 5 go with him? Same for Metallic. This is going to be really interesting because I don't even know what the alliances necessarily might be. I bet there's a lot of diplomacy happening over the comms at this point in time.
Oh yeah, I definitely would agree with that one. They're coming to 2 laps to go this time, and well, single file, you can't really pull out. Oh, never mind. Right as I'm saying that,
Josh
there
Metallic
they go.
Down to the bottom on Chuck McClure. DeSpirito went with him. So too does the Batmobile of the 45 Tom Dixon. Metallic will go to the point. McClure's going to start fading back. That might be him saying adios to this victory. Now it's the 39 versus the 24, and they're going to get a bit of a tow. They're catching up to some trucks there on the tail end of the lead lap. I think I saw Nofsker up ahead, Glenn Harris as well. So does DeSpirito maybe use that draft, use that slipstream to maybe make a move on the 39 here, coming to the white flag?
I guess we'll have to wait and see here. There's a lap truck that separates 2nd and 3rd place right now.
Yeah, McClure was able to slot 4th in this line, still in the 3rd position behind Tom Dixon. Brian Schilling makes the move. We got the race within the race here too, Michael. Let's not forget the 143 and the 4 and the 92, the 43. They're all battling for the 16th position behind the race leaders as the white flag displayed for Josh Metallic.
45 pulled up and out of the way. Try to let these guys settle it.
Nose to tail, top 3. No drafting help behind McClure, so if you're going to make the move, you're going to have to make it on your own. They have latched on to the tail end of that other group of 3, Cy Jones, Tim Nofsker, and the lap car of Glenn Harris. Into 3 we go. I think the tri-oval may be where these guys might make a move, if they can make a move. Metallic's going to be looking out that rear view mirror more than out the windshield, I guarantee you of that.
Oh, there it goes right there. He's thinking about it, but these trucks are just going to be able to keep the draft up, and it's going to be Josh Metallic that's going to get this race.
The champ is back. Josh Metallic locks himself into the playoffs here this season with the victory here tonight in race 9, and it continues on the trend. 9 races, 9 different winners with only 1 race left to run here in the regular season.
Absolutely incredible. And that
You
was
know,
fun too, finishing at 10 o'clock on the dot. So this race took them roughly an hour.
take note, RTG drivers. I'm noticing a trend. Last week we talked with Tim Nofsker before we went green in this race. Tonight we talked with Josh Metallic before we went green in this race. We might be the commentator's curse may be over. We may be good luck now.
I wouldn't go that far.
I think we've reversed the curse. Oh man, what a drive for Josh Metallic here tonight. Led only 4 laps, but up there when it counted, was able to hold off Chuck McClure and Joe DeSpirito to pick up his first win on the season. He came into tonight's race 7th in the point standings. We know that he missed a week. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. Dropped a couple spots in the point standings, but doesn't matter now. He's locked into the playoffs with his victory here tonight, and for the first time since last year's season finale, he gets to burn it down in front of these Talladega fans. Number 39, the green and yellow Geico Mobile, reminding you that 15 minutes could save you hundreds of dollars on car, or in this case, truck insurance. Let's take a look at the finishing results from tonight's festivities, and I don't know, it's kind of like looking at a storybook. There's a lot of chapters in the finishing results here tonight. Only 15 drivers finishing on the lead lap. Metallic with the win. DeSpirito brings it home second. He'll gain on Bob Seminara for the overall points lead, with Seminara finishing down in the 10th spot. So be interesting to see if we have a new points leader heading into our regular season finale or not. Chuck McClure brings it home in 3rd place. David Cannon. We didn't really talk a whole lot about David here tonight. How about that? 4th place run for him. And the pole sitter, Kelly Causey, spent 14 laps out in front after he led us to green. He's going to finish out the top 5. Rodney Sullins, great run in 6th. Bernie Mobbs there in 7th. Best finish of the season for Brian Lavelle as he scores 8th. Dave Melson 9th. And Seminara, as we mentioned, there in 10th. Rest of the drivers to finish on the lead lap: Billy Elliser, Milt Surratt, Doug Hewlick, Cy Jones, and Tim Nofsker. In the case of the 26, 80, 23, and 7, we didn't mention their names a whole lot here tonight, and that was kind of a good thing because that meant they didn't really make any mistakes on pit road. That's why they were able to come away with such good finishes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good when you can come away with a good finish at Talladega.
Then you look at all the drivers from 16th on down, and a couple of things coming into play with these drivers finishing off the lead lap. Some of them having some moments on the racetrack that didn't bring out a caution. Most of them having incidents on pit road that didn't bring out a yellow flag. Pit road was the deciding factor here tonight for sure. And 4 drivers finished back in the garage area: Jason Scheck, John Godfrey, Doug Maluski, and Terry Bombard. So now we know what the scenario is going to be going into our season finale of who is still eligible to win their way in, who's still eligible to point their way in. Going to be really a lot of fun to kind of keep track of the live points when we get to our regular season finale next week, especially with the fact that positions at Talladega seem to change every lap, every corner. So we'll be trying to keep you guys as informed as possible of who is in and who is out. But it's time now to head into our FRN post-race wind down and talk with some of the drivers here tonight that finished up inside of the top 3. Let's see if we can kick things off with the guy who brings it home, last spot on the podium, 3rd place tonight, driver the number 17, Chuck McClure. Hey Chuck, it's Michael and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Hi, guys.
Well, man, a very interesting final couple laps of this race. Almost looked like it was going to come down to lap machines pushing somebody to this victory, but mano y mano y mano, you versus the 24 versus the 39. Obviously, got to be tough being that 3rd truck in line to make a move on the final lap. So, was there anything in that 17 truck that was going to be able to get up there to lead in that final lap, or were you basically just kind of in ride mode and having to push one of the others?
I'm just pretty much in ride mode. I didn't have any help, and Yeah, nothing I could do. I guess I'm glad to get third, but third sucks.
Really
Yeah.
interesting. Oh,
Go ahead, Seth.
I was just gonna say it's really interesting to kind of see how the driver's mentality has changed from the first half of the season of the regular season now to the second half. First half of the regular season kind of looked like you guys had to position yourself to avoid the big wrecks. Now you guys are having to plan for execution on pit road. Last week only one caution, no caution here tonight. Does this trend continue into the playoffs, do you think? Next week's finale and, of course, the start of the playoffs? Or do you think that at some point here, the mentality is going to change back again?
I uh I think it's probably going to ramp up a little bit next week, that being the last one. But we've been getting talkings too. We're not supposed to wreck, and we can put on a better show like we did tonight, and we're reminded of that every night in the drivers' meeting.
Yeah, it was a crazy race, and we saw a lot of people getting into different types of trouble coming onto pit road on the green here. Just how difficult is it to get onto pit road from going 200 miles an hour down to 55?
It's not easy, and you got people at different breaking points, and I we had a close call on pit road a couple times, and luck we just got lucky. That's all, and I guess yeah, just luck.
Well, Chuck, we know you're already locked into the playoffs, winning very early on in the season opener. You're now sitting third in the point standings heading into that regular season finale, 15 points out. So, what's the goal for the 17 now knowing you've already clinched a playoff spot? Are you looking next week to be heading into that postseason as the overall points leader, get those bonus points, or are you out there with the goal of trying to be the first multi time winner on the season?
Both. I want to be the first multi-10 winner, and I want to be the season champion. And I need all the points I can get. You've seen how tough these guys are out here, and not any of them are none of them are easy to beat ever.
Well, Chuck, you gave it a heck of a try here tonight. Another solid outing for you. Third place performance here tonight. Congratulations on that. And now we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout outs.
Yeah, I want to appreciate shout out to Bones and all the guys, Josh that run the league. It's obviously the best place there is to race. Um, Shout out to all my friends and family, my work friends at Marshall County Schools. I know a few of them's watching. I appreciate them taking the time out to watch this race, and of course, you guys for putting on a great show. I can't wait to watch the broadcast.
It was an exciting one from start to finish. Chuck McClure brings it home in the third position here tonight at Talladega. His goal next week, as he said, is going to be twofold: win a race, second race of the season, and be that overall points leader heading into the playoffs. Good luck with that, Chuck. We'll be looking forward to watching you next week.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can now dial up the driver that brings it home in second place tonight. Another driver that is locked into the playoffs with his victory earlier on this year, and that is the 24 of Joe DeSpirito. Hey Joe, it's Seth and Michael up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey, I got you guys. How you doing?
Doing good. Well, man, I'll tell you what, last couple of weeks have been very interesting from a broadcaster point of view, just trying to figure out how Talladega is going to get you guys without the utilization of the big one. I mean, we went caution free here tonight, only had one yellow last week. Well, I think we found out the answer. Pit road seems to be where it's trying to get you guys. I mean, Michael asked Chuck just moments ago how difficult it is to get onto pit lane, but especially I want to kind of just build off of that. How difficult is it to get onto pit lane knowing that that really is the deciding factor into whether you're going to gain or lose track position in a race such as this?
Oh, it's crazy, man. Three green flag pit stops. You got to be clean. And the last stop, actually, 55 was coming in. It didn't even look like he was coming in. It looked like he got spun off the racing surface, and he was flying up behind me. And I think he was getting close to me, so I had to let off the brake, and I came in and I sped, and they cleared it for me. But yeah, everything was pretty clean on pit road, and that's kind of the key at Talladega when it comes to these green flag no caution races is it's pit stops. And at the end, you saw there was only three guys on the lead lap at the end there in the front pack because it was a survival battle.
Well, that answered my question that I had for you was about what happened with that black flag that we thought that you got. So I'll turn it back over to Seth.
Yeah, obviously, I was asking Chuck this, and I'll ask you the same question. You locked up a playoff spot very early on in the season, winning the fourth race on the year. You come into the season finale, regular season finale, I should say, 6 points behind your teammate Bob Seminara, but what's the goal for the 24 next week? You know you're already locked in. So are we looking for the overall points lead, those bonus points heading into the postseason, or are we trying to get the 24 in victory lane for the second time this year, trying to be the first multi-time winner here in season 56?
Oh well, the goal next week is to drink as many mixed drinks and cocktails and alcohol as possible because I'm going to be on a cruise. I'm actually going to miss the race next week, so I'll probably drop 3 or 4 spots in the points. So I'm rooting on my buddy Bob if he can hold off the points lead and take that regular season points championship. Real quick, I want to congratulate him. He won the bracket series winners bracket, so he'll be waiting for the final. But yeah, I won't be here next week, so I'll be rooting for my guys. I'll have the Wi-Fi going, and I'll be rooting for my buddies, and I'll be watching from the boat, and be watching you guys FRN on YouTube.
Well, we hope that you enjoy your cruise there. Joe Spears going to be coming into the playoffs refreshed, so maybe watch out rest of the playoff grid. Joe, congratulations though on a great performance here tonight. Second place run, almost were able to pull off that victory there. It was a lot of fun to watch that 1v1v1 battle in the final 3 laps of this race. But now we'll give it the opportunity to do some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
I want to thank everybody watching at home, my buddies at work, at the post office, LC, FTMF, um, Mobs Motors. I want to thank my family watching. I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, new on the truck this season, Old City Fly Shop out of St. Augustine, Florida. And I want to thank FRN, you guys, RTG. And yeah, I want to thank Chuck and Tim for clean racing at the end there. Or Chuck and I'm sorry, Chuck and Josh at the end, clean racing there. And yeah, I didn't have much help at the end there, so Josh made a move and I went with him. I didn't have any help, any buddies up there, so that's kind of the way the cookie crumbled. So that's it. I appreciate it, guys.
Last Joe DeSpirito, his regular season comes to a bit of an early end, but he gets a second place finish to cap it off. Once again, Joe, congratulations on the great run. Enjoy next week, and we look forward to seeing what you do once the playoffs begin.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the playoffs.
All right, let's go down to victory lane and talk with tonight's race winner, the defending champ, back in victory lane. He'll be heading into the playoffs looking to defend his crown. That is Josh Metallic. Josh, it's Michael and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you.
Man, I remember a few weeks ago I asked you, you come into this season the defending champ, a lot of pressure on you to follow it up. What did you need to do to be able to defend the title? And you said go to victory lane. Well, 2 weeks removed from when the playoffs begin, you parked that number 39 in victory circle. You're locked into the playoffs. I mean, obviously got to beat some great momentum, but you also had to survive here tonight. More importantly, survive pit road. I mean, caution-free race, and it all came down to strategy. Describe it from the cockpit of your machine.
Yeah, it's a funny thing when we get 35 or more. It tends to breed yellows. If it's low 30s, it just seems to go real smooth. And I don't know how 2 or 3 trucks make that much of a difference, but it historically seems to do that. And yeah, I play a little dodge. I'm coming into the pits a couple times, and we had several guys out. That's why the numbers down a little bit. I know Prime's ailing with a back issue. Hopefully he can get back soon. And a couple guys on vacation and all that. But yeah, it was just stay with the lead, and it was tough. I almost lost the draft on the second to last pit stop with a little bit of dodging going on, but just hung in there, and it just kept dwindling after each run, and got there at the end when it mattered.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen how everything went with this race today, caution-free race and everything, and I'm sure that made strategy a little bit different, pitting with the right people at the right time. But we saw a lot of people get in trouble coming to pit road today. Just in your perspective, how difficult is it to get slowed down that quickly with the unique way that you guys get onto pit road?
Well, you saw it. It's tough to go from 195 to 55 in a matter of I don't know how many yards that is, but and you're doing it with other guys trying to do the same, and everyone's trying to get you can make up a lot of spots and a lot of positions pitting. So everyone knows that, and everyone's coming in a little too fast. I did it. So it's still a race, even if it's a race to pit road. And luckily, the guys here are pretty good. I mean, there was a couple hiccups on pit stops, but everyone I pitted with each time, for the most part, it was pretty clean in and out overall.
Yeah, Josh, we have to remember too that after that final round of pit stops, it was yourself, the 24 and the 17, but you weren't the leader of that group. You ended up making the move in the trioval coming to 3 to go. What played into your timing the move there? Was it the fact that, if a caution possibly did come out, you wanted to be that lead car and maybe finish the race as the leader under caution? Was it just the momentum was there for you to be able to make the move? What was the deciding factor?
Yeah, I didn't know when to go, honestly. A few weeks back, I waited until I think it was the last lap or maybe backstretch, and the yellow came out, and I didn't have enough time to get up to the front to challenge. And tonight, I mean, it was a three-man race at the end, but there were lap cars, and you don't know who those guys are going to draft with. They're going to go somewhere with you or against you, so you have to make a move and hope that they don't play a negative role. And then I saw we were catching some lap cars ahead too, and I want to get around him before he had that draft from those guys. So it's really just guessing. There's no science or a thing that says this is when you should move. I ran for a while, kind of just lulled everyone into thinking I'm just going to keep doing that, and then just jumped out when I thought it'd be a good time, and it worked out. 24 went, and then behind me and a couple other lap cars, I think they might have split up both ways, but it was enough to get in front and hold off to the end.
One final question for you. All three drivers that finish in the podium here tonight now have all gone to victory lane. All are locked into the playoffs. One race remains here in the regular season. Now, it looks like you're not going to be able to mathematically get that overall regular season championship, but now that you're locked in, what's the goal for next week?
The goal is to try to gain any positions for the championship. I don't know where I'm at, but if I move up a spot from wherever I'm at now into one higher spot, that's an extra 3 points, and every point counts. Or another win. I mean, that'll get you points too. So even if you're locked in, you're still points racing or racing for points via wins. So I kind of like the way the points are. Maybe I'm biased because that's the goal. Keep doing what we're doing and try to maximize points position and maybe another win too.
Like that's going to be the goal of a lot of drivers that are already locked in the playoffs next week. Just accumulate all those bonus points you can, get yourself the highest seed possible when the points get reformatted for the playoffs. But Josh, congratulations on the victory here tonight. Going to be a lot of fun in a couple weeks' time when we begin the playoffs to see you try and defend that championship crown. But now it's time to hand the mic over to you for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah. Obviously, thanks to you guys. These broadcasts are a big hit with friends and family. The drivers here love them. You guys do a good job. I'm glad we got you back doing these. We'll see how long we can keep it going, but I appreciate all you guys do here. It's awesome. And obviously, Bones, Dave Cannon, and Sean Prime for keeping this place running. It's a lot of work that people don't often see. Tim Knofsker and Wiley, my fellow admins, and the drivers who show up each week, donate each month, keep this place running really good. So it's fun. I totally enjoy it, and already ready for next week already.
Well, Josh Metallic burned it down here tonight at Talladega. He is your most recent winner and makes it now 9 for 9 in different winners on the season. He'll look to end that streak next week, try and go back to back to begin the playoffs. But for now, enjoy that victory, Josh, and maybe we'll get to talk to you again next week to close out the regular season.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
So as the celebration continues for one Josh Metallic, let's bring you guys up to speed of what the playoffs look like and the current point standings heading into next week. Bob Seminara still sits atop the point standings. We talked with Joe DeSpirito. He'll not be here next week, but after tonight's race, he was 6 points out of the overall points lead. Looks like really only two drivers may have a shot at that regular season championship here. Chuck McClure, third in points, 15 points out, and Brian Schilling dropped a couple of spots to 4th. He's 24 points back. Tonight's winner, Josh Metallic, he currently sits 5th in the point standings. Rodney Sullins dropped to 6th. Tim Knopfsker also dropped a spot to 7th. Bernie Mobbs up 3 spots. He's now inside of a playoff position in 8th. Glenn Harris, he's still in the top 10 in 9th. And another new face pops up inside of the top 10. As a matter of fact, we've got a tie for 10th position. Cy Jones and Donnie Garrett. Garrett would obviously get in through his victory. So I believe Cy Jones right now would hold the final playoff spot via points. So Donnie Garrett, Richard Martin, and Grant Wesley, those 3 drivers would currently be outside of the top 10 technically, and their wins would lock them into the playoffs. So Michael, at least for the moment, it looks like we would have a minimum of 13 drivers locked into the playoffs by time we reach the conclusion of next week's race. That is, if we don't have a 10th driver go to victory lane next week, which right now we are in line potentially for a perfect 10 for 10.
Yeah, perfect 10, that's for sure. But it's really all gonna matter, with next week. You don't know what's gonna happen. You can't really predict it. Like, we didn't predict a caution-free race today, so you have no idea what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna make next week really, really exciting to watch.
And the incredible thing for me too is I don't know how they do it, but I've talked to drivers here in past seasons that we broadcasted for the Tally Challenge, and I'll say to them, are you doing math in your head about how many positions you need to be ahead of a certain driver to be able to advance to the playoffs? And they say yes. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you keep track of all that when you're double and 3 wide with this type of competition? But they do it. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch what kind of strategy comes into play, what kind of 1v1 battles we see of drivers trying to get those last minute spots in the playoffs. Also, to bring you guys up to date real quickly on the bracket series, we heard with Bob Seminara getting the highest finish between himself and Brian Schilling. He is moving on to the finals of the winners bracket. On the losers bracket side, it's going to be Rodney Sullins moving on to take on Kelly Causey. And then Jeremy Jeffries and Wayne Pribnow were not here tonight, so it will be Chris Elliott and Chuck McClure moving on to take on each other. The winner of Sullins versus Causey will then the following week take on Grant Wesley. The winner of Elliott versus McClure will take on Joe DeSpirito in 2 weeks' time as we get closer to finding out who's going to be the bracket champion. But there's going to be a lot of storylines to follow next week. Cannot wait for that. We appreciate everybody tuning in tonight and hope that you will continue to join us here on our journey for the regular season. Next week, it is the eve of the playoffs. It is the final shot for drivers to make their way into the postseason. Michael, I cannot wait for that, but what a precursor here tonight in our 9th race of the season. I appreciate you joining me in the booth.
No problem. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to next week. It's going to be exciting to watch. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you to everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight. Also, be sure to tune in next week. That's when we determine our playoff grid. It'll be next Thursday night. Green flag scheduled to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you guys will be there. But until then, for Michael Norman, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. Congratulations to Josh Metallic on the victory tonight in the RTG Tally Challenge, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you